Chapter 6, Episode 2, Hiring a Contact Person in Seasickness. This is a questionable request. Doctor. Claude's prescription doesn't match the patient. One day in mid-November, another World Pharmacy. Falma groaned after reading the prescriptions Claude and his students had sent that day and listening to the stories of patients who came into the pharmacy. If the pharmacist arbitrarily changes the prescription, it damages the relationship of trust, so it can't be changed arbitrarily. But if a prescription is written that doesn't match the disease, as a pharmacist, I can't even give it out as an auditor. Is it necessary to contact Chief Chamberlain? Ellen asks. Yes, you should review it or change it. In Japan, if a dispensing pharmacy deems a prescription inappropriate, it checks with the prescribing doctor. In this world, both doctors and pharmacists have the right to diagnose, prescribe, and dispense medicines. I thought that eventually the work should be divided into departments. While Falma was writing a letter to Claude, Lot stood up compassionately. It is my third time today. Requests, then we go to the pigeons. Between work, Lot took the elevator to the roof of the pharmacy. But after a while, there was a loud bang from the spiral staircase along with a scream. I must have stepped down the stairs. Lot. Falma cries out in surprise. Even Ellen is startled. Lot-chan. As Falma and Ellen hurried to the spiral staircase, Lot rubbed her back at the foot of the stairs. I heard a loud noise. Are you okay? Damn. I was too nervous. Lot almost stopped breathing and had tears in her eyes. Falma put her hand on the squatting Lot's waist. Where does it hurt? It's a little lower too. As Falma rubbed Lot's lower back several times with a little divine force, the pain seemed to subside and heal. She didn't know that Falma had recently acquired such an ability, and wondered if the pain was just her imagination. It hurts. It flew away. Because Falma-sama rubbed me. Lot is honestly satisfied. I don't know. I'm glad I was healed. The two have perfect eyes, and look away from each other. While talking, Lot quickly spoke up. Falma-sama. I have no more pigeons to fly to Chief Chamberlain. And then Pal-sama sent a pigeon too. Lot is on the roof of the pharmacy Dovecote, Columbia. I will tell you how it is, and give you a message from Pal. More pigeons? We need to increase the size of the Dovecote. Ellen plays with her glasses with a worried expression. No, I don't want to increase the number of pigeons. Falma, who said that, brought pigeons from Imperial University to the pigeon loft at the pharmacy and used his homing instinct to send them to the medical school. I did not want to build a pigeon coop on the roof of the pharmacy for hygienic reasons with feathers flying around. Feces and dust, but since that was the only means of communication in this world, it was Falma's refuge, and diligent cleanliness is paid. However, Bruno, who attaches great importance to hygiene, warns that it is better not to build the dovecote on the roof of the store, but somewhere else. Falma heaved a small sigh as she thought about it. The pigeons of today are stopped. If you were in Japan, you would only have to call to ask a question. The inconvenience of communicating in another world is that it can't be done with a single phone call. I would like to use the smartphone that Falma brought from another world and leave it at the medical school to send emails from the PC, but I can't. Patients are waiting ahead. Then Cedric suggested an alternative plan. If you're in a hurry, maybe you should change your mind and ask for a messenger instead of sending pigeons to send requests. Not. Shall I go and ask for the question then? Lot, who has light footwork, quickly raises her hand, and Falma is grateful for it, but as expected, it's too late for girl feet. Then let's go for a run. From death faster than Lot-san. Roger, a part-time pharmacist who could not stand it, accepted it. Hey, I'm dead at home, Tilda. Roger, who can't be said to have much physical strength, came back exhausted. I must have been in such a hurry that I was already drenched in sweat. Falma saw it and thought that professional staff was needed. Too bad for Roger. On the other hand, if Falma flies off with the medicine god's staff, the store owner will be in trouble in the meantime. Should we hire a professional contact? Lot. Can you make a poster? Please leave it to me. Lot wrote an illustrated messenger advertising poster and put it up in front of the pharmacy and on several bulletin boards in the imperial capital. Urgent recruitment. A contact person for another world pharmacy. A young person who can read maps, read and write, keep secrets to himself and has confidence in his legs. It's a job that takes a tour of the imperial city several times a day. Salary and hours are negotiable with the owner. Will you come? When Falma said that, Lot also folded her hands in front of her chest and her heart pounded. Spoke with. That day, more than a dozen people who wanted to be messengers and had seen the poster came in droves. Most of them are young and tall men. I never thought there would be a job offer for a general job from another world pharmacy. And so on, happily talking to each other. It is rumored that the salaries are good for recruiting staff in the other world pharmacy, so it is a popular place to work. Maybe that's why everyone was desperate to appeal when Falma interviewed them one by one. Then I will sing, please listen. I'll do tricks. And so on, even those who had not asked appeared. I told the applicants who leaned forward because I wanted to be hired too much and said, I will tell you the results later. Honestly, these people were hot. Who do you want to do? Falma-kun. I think people who are good at magic tricks should stop. Actually, I don't know who to choose. Falma and Ellen stood at the pharmacy counter thinking about who to hire while looking at their resumes and impressions from the interview. Are you still looking for contacts? Then a little boy came up who seemed to be in good spirits. Falma walked right through the counter to the interview. Can you show me your resume? I'm ashamed of my bad handwriting. Sure, the handwriting is dirty. I can't even take notes with it. The handwritten resume, seemingly written with much effort, was so poorly written that it was almost impossible to decipher. Ellen shook her head and said, this kid is no good. Understood. Thank you for your application. After Falma said that and sent the boy home for the time being, he leaned over and said, come back today. As he said this, a familiar old man came into the pharmacy. Welcome, Admiral. Lot finds him and says he's an admiral, so Jean smiles wryly. Patients and customers who visited the pharmacy became noisy, perhaps noticing Jean's visit from Lot's words. What should I get today? After much deliberation, Admiral Jean chose a new multivitamin gum and asked Lot to take it. Sitting in the waiting room, drinking water from the pharmacy's water dispenser, he eats the purchased product as quickly as he can and slowly cuts it out. Finally, it has been decided that a large fleet will leave for the expedition to the New World next February, Mr. Shopkeeper. To make it in time, I will place a large order for various products. Medical. It seems that there will be a demand for food and nutritious food, as well as cameras for recording in the field. Falma cautioned that while he was grateful for the order, he was not at peace with the large fleet. I wondered if he planned to stay on the new continent for any length of time. It's a departure to the Gabon continent, isn't it? Given as Admiral Jean's last name. Duh, stop it. I don't care about the name. Stop making fun of me. The continent was named after the discoverer Admiral Jean, but Admiral Jean was always embarrassed to call himself Gavin Continent. But it's called the Gavin Continent, right? Falma has no intention of making fun of Jean. It's also uncomfortable to keep calling it a new continent. It happened with the voice of His Majesty. Admiral Jean lamented that he could not firmly refuse because of His Majesty's momentum. Then nothing can be done. Well, then, we should set sail in the severest winter. Wouldn't it be better to sail in spring or autumn when the climate is milder? Falma recommends choosing the climate for such an important voyage. Admiral Jean seems to be heading west to the new continent as he did last time, but Falma wants him to know that he doesn't have to go in the middle of winter. Then Jan lowers the tone of his voice. Not even I want to sail into the freezing sea. I'm sensitive to the cold. But since pirates and foolhardy adventurers are after the continent's resources, why not wait until it gets warmer? However, there are rough seas, and normal ships can't sail to the new continent, can they? Ellen asks Jean. He had heard from Jean that a ship with only commoners on board would be killed by evil spirits and sink during the voyage. Jean nodded plausibly. Yes. You can't leave the ship's graveyard unless you go with the ship. So, to make the journey safer, in addition to the magic users of the water attributes and wind attributes, this time we have a traveling god as a guardian deity. It seems that His Majesty has ordered that the user of the divine art without attributes should also be on board. Traveling god. Oh, Falma remembered and clapped his hands. Clara is one of the divine art users without attributes who was evaluated by Solomon after Falma opened the mythology. I remember being a little girl. She lived with Medic's investor Chloe. I'm a commoner, so I am not very familiar with the arts, but can I sail safely with the protection of the traveling god? When asked about this, even Falma had no choice but to say, how about this? There are 3 things that bother me. She is a young woman, and Clara herself does not like sailing, and she is weak to boats. I feel sick when the boat rocks. The custom of not letting a young woman go on a long voyage is not as common as it is on Earth, but it exists on this world as well. More than anything, Jean seems concerned about being sexually harassed by the rough men of the sea. Falma also completely agrees. That's a person you can't take from the beginning. It's a problem in front of the travel god. If something happens, Miss Chloe will not be able to keep quiet. Ellen smiled wryly and seemed to have sympathy for the girl. I don't like to travel, or rather, I said I wanted to lock myself in the mansion and sleep. Falma remembered how Clara was feeling. Fortunately, Chloe was a great noblewoman who seemed to listen to Clara's desire to live without doing anything and to provide her with an environment in which she could pamper her. You're a lazy girl if you want to shut up and sleep. No, it's not because I'm lazy, it's because I have extremely low blood pressure, she said. That's why I don't want to take you on a boat ride anymore. However, in return, I heard that he was also accompanied by Chloe on a trip to inspect the territory, but if it was the Empress's order this time, there was no way to withdraw it. Anyway, I'm sorry, especially this time. I will say something that is not promising. In her case, there are also stories that she just doesn't feel like it. Jean is said to have been drained of energy by her anyway, listlessly. Does that mean you feel some kind of revelation? Ellen added that she, who has a traveling god as a patron god, might have something like a sixth sense. Admiral Jean makes a serious face. This is a problem. We sailors are particularly concerned about promises of good fortune. Depending on the results of the temple's divination, the voyage may be postponed. This time a divine art user with the protection of the traveling god. I do not want to take them with me, but it would also lower the morale of the young sailors who were reassured by their company. Admiral Jean frowns. It is difficult. Falma also thought about the severity of the voyage. In this world, it is rare that there are no casualties on a single voyage. It is an admiral's duty to reduce casualties on the voyage as much as possible. As part of that, Jean said he would probably borrow Bruno's student pharmacist for the trip. What is the main purpose of this voyage? The first is to explore the continent and make a coastal map of the given continent. Since the Imperial Navy will participate in the voyage this time, there might be another purpose. Since the Admiral arrived on the East Coast, he probably won't have enough momentum to reach the west coast of the continent. Falma worried about the native people living on the west coast. Are you bringing the horse too? Since settlers will be settling on the new continent, they plan to bring livestock. Since no indigenous peoples were found, it is possible to avoid the trend of establishing colonies. Under current international law, the first nation to discover uninhabited land is allowed to establish a colony. There is nothing wrong with Jean, who believes that the new continent is an uninhabited land. Well, it can't help but worry the busy shopkeeper. Going back to the beginning, after all, there is a drug that can help with nausea. It is a substance that makes the girl with the god of travel to want to go on a trip. I will. Admiral Jean approached Falma with the appearance of asking for help. Falma thought for a while, went to the medicine chest to get medicine for the horse plague, and came back. This is a medicine for motion sickness, he said. It's the same. Anti-nausea, antihistamines with diphenhydramine salicylate and ibuprofen help balance it. Side effects include rashes, palpitations and difficulty urinating, but mostly it makes me sleepy. Well, as long as you sleep without disrupting the trip, it's fine. Admiral Jean said and left. Good morning. I heard a story from Admiral Jean. So the next morning Clara came to the pharmacy herself. She has a flawless face, but with the same faint tilt and dark circles under her eyes, she looks sloppy and slovenly. Mr. Shopkeeper. It's been a long time. Chloe is with us. This is Jackie's daughter and the exact opposite of Clara. Today, Clara Chan will accompany His Majesty on a trip. When they reach the pharmacy, Clara looks like she's lying on the counter. The low blood pressure seems painful as usual. It would have been nice if you could come in the evening. Falma calls out. She's so lethargic and inattentive that at first glance other doctors and pharmacists misdiagnose her as depressed. But that's because of her severely low blood pressure, and her symptoms are especially severe in the morning. It seems that you have been assigned to accompany us on this journey, but are you hesitant? Falma held out water and asked roughly. I'm worried about taking a boat ride in this condition. Yes. Since Yakushi-sama paved the way for me, I've been living a good life under Chloe-sama. I want to repay His Majesty's kindness. I really don't want to go this time. Although she seemed unmotivated, she revered Falma, who paved the way for her, and Chloe, who gave her a place to live, as her benefactors. Is it because of nausea? I can give you remedies for nausea. I'm nauseous too. She, who enjoys the protection of a traveling god, has a secret problem. I can see it. The sailors on the Saint Fleuve Royale probably won't come back. Those on the other ships are fine, but some of the people on the other ships died. Increase. She says that those who can't return from their voyages look like skeletons. And indeed, it seems that the servants and acquaintances who looked like that did not return or were killed several times. Do all sailors look like that? Apparently it took on a different aspect than just a problem with seasickness. Well, Chloe also made a surprised face and covered her mouth with a folding fan. Clara nodded with a blank expression. I met the people who boarded the Saint Fleuve Royale, but they are all. Is it some kind of premonition ability? The Saint Fleuve Royale is a large sailing ship under the command of Admiral Jean. Yakushi-sama. How can I say no? With tears in her eyes, Clara brought her face closer to Falma. She was so straight and sweet that Falma was unintentionally shaken. Does that mean we shouldn't set sail on the Saint Fleuve Royale? Should we change ships? Falma asked while holding his breath. I wonder what will happen if we change ships. Well, I will try to inform Admiral Jean as soon as possible. This is important information. Have another ship ready, and if you still see signs of death, the crew of this ship should not leave. It's okay, of course you shouldn't. I'm not going sailing either. This is a valuable skill. It helps to know safety in advance. Falma was excited to meet someone with an unexpected skill. That's right. By the way, I'm planning a trip to the Holy Land next month, but will I be able to return? Clara stared at Falma with wide eyes. Don't hesitate to tell me. Falma was surprised and asked nervously. It's not that she really believes in her ability to make predictions, but in this world of divine arts, her words are heavy. The journey is going back. But, very. Well, I see bad signs. Clara speaks one word after another, as if it were hard to say. What are the signs? Isn't it or not to go to Falma-kun either? The Holy Land. When Ellen heard this, she looked at Falma anxiously. Then Clara sent out a lifeboat. I will follow Yakushi-sama. Maybe I can warn you before something happens. Really? Then I'll ask you to accompany me. Thank you, you are reliable. Yes, Yakushi-sama is my benefactor, Clara said while fidgeting around. There is no power at the end of the sentence and it looks unreliable, but it reassures Falma. I wonder about that Mr. Chloe. Even if I borrow Mr. Clara, I don't mind if you take me, as long as Clara-chan doesn't mind. Falma finally got the cooperation of a reliable companion. Maybe you're looking for a contact person. Chloe and Clara left the pharmacy and came back in less than a minute, and Clara asked, "It seems like a comment looking at the sticker." "Yes, but I just had an interview yesterday." When Falma said that, Clara closed her eyes for a moment before speaking. "It's better to come last. Others get hurt in the legs, are attacked by thugs, or bitten by dogs." "Wow, that's terrible. You came last. You mean that kid with the bad handwriting?" Ellen's concerns are understandable, but why don't we adopt it? Clara's opinion was accepted. In the end, Tom was hired, a lively 14-year-old boy who came last. He was an apprentice running errands at a nearby store, so he was only called when there was something to do. He had a deep tan, which he attributed to early morning runs and daily errands between stores. He was given the uniform of a pharmacy contact, happily tucked it through his sleeves, and said, "I feel like I've become more important. I was on an errand, shopkeeper. Are you ready for your next order yet? You're really fast. I'm not even breathing. Then can you help me bring the medicine to the patient? It's cheap." Since it was a fixed salary plus piecework system, Tom was hungry for work. Hey, he's a good guy who did exactly what Clara said. His handwriting is messy, but that's not a problem at all. His memory is amazing, so he can use it verbally and cover it up. When Falma was surprised by Tom's fast pace, Tom said with a refreshing smile, "Thanks to the water Falma made at the pharmacy, I could run faster." He said that it might be a good idea to bathe in the Emperor's bath after working with Falma's treat. Falma made a sports drink for Tom, who was sweating profusely, and gave it to him. Tom cleverly took money from Claude for sweets. In addition, Lot sometimes received sweets from Tom, creating a small positive cycle.